Well, I think, Jack, I mean, correct me if you disagree, but there's two ways to inform next steps, right? There's messaging, what you say publicly that may help your position, and there is the reality that helps you understand what the other side may do. So in terms of relevant policy, how do you think Iran will look at this, and how do you think Israel will look at this?
Well, Iran knows where its fissile material is. Don't forget that we gave them plenty of heads up that we were going to attack. They assumed for years that we were going to attack. They knew where the stuff was. It's only about 1,000 pounds of fissile material, so it could be just about anywhere. So some of it's still out there. Even if all of Fordo was destroyed, which it wasn't, it's hard to believe that even the weapons that we had could get all the way down to the galleries where the material was located. If you're convinced that all of the material was not obliterated, that the Iranians still have the capability and the desire to produce nuclear weapons, you're going to act in certain ways, and gathering intelligence information is going to be one of the ways you're going to do it. The United States intelligence apparatus and the Israeli intelligence apparatus, if they don't already know where some of this stuff is, they're working really, really hard to find out where the majority of it is. The second thing to keep in mind is that this attack, more than destroying Fordo or dispersing nuclear material, sent a message to Iran. And Israel, this was important to Israel, sent a message to Iran that the United States is willing to do just about anything to protect Israel, and that includes doing something with which everybody else might perceive to be reckless. The United States is going to do it anyway.
So let me bring in NBC's Garrett Haake, who is reporting from the Netherlands. You heard everything that the president had to say. So within that context, what do we think this might mean for negotiations with Iran?
Well, Chris, according to the president, there aren't going to be any. I mean, this was an interesting moment in this news conference where he basically sidestepped this very thorny issue of how do you go from a ceasefire to a negotiated settlement, a peace deal, some kind of discussion about what becomes of the Iranian nuclear program. From the president's perspective, at this moment, his interaction with Iran seems to be basically over. Listen to the way he described it.
The way I look at it, they fought, the war's done, and you know, I could get a statement that they're not going to go nuclear. We're probably going to ask for that, but they're not going to be doing it. But they're not going to be doing it anyway. They've had it. They've had it. Now, maybe someday in the future we'll want that. But I've asked Marco, do you want to draw? I just asked him the question as we were walking on the stage. Do you want to draw up a little agreement for them to sign? Because I think we can get them to sign it. I don't think it's necessary.
Chris, from the White House perspective, they spent 60-some-odd days trying to negotiate with Iran on the nuclear program. They feel like they got nowhere, and the president is basically hanging his future policy on that assumption that he makes there, that Iran is done with trying to enrich uranium, done with trying to build a nuclear program of any kind, because, as he said earlier today, they went through hell, and they're done and over it. We'll see.
They've had it. Garrett Haake, thank you so much for your reporting there. So, Ned, the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee was on this network just this morning. He has a little different view of this, warning what he thinks Iran might do. Here it is.
Put yourself in the shoes of an Iranian leader, right? Do you launch a terrorist attack in London and in New York? No, you'll get brutalized. Mm-hmm. What you do is you behave like a Boy Scout. You go very quiet. You abide by the ceasefire. Mm-hmm. And if you've set yourself up to do it, you develop a nuclear weapon. That's really my fear right now.
Where do you put the likelihood of that scenario versus, say, they've had it?
Well, look, Chris, I think it's hard to ascribe any sort of percentage to the possibility that Iran pursues one course or the other. But I think the congressman is right in the sense that it is a distinct possibility that Iran now sprints towards some sort of nuclear device. And I think the real concern is not that they're going to sprint towards a fully sophisticated nuclear weapon, what we would have been concerned about in the years preceding this, but now they have every incentive to try to gain leverage with even a potentially crude nuclear device, something that, depending on the scale of the destruction and depending on the disposition of the enriched uranium and the centrifuges, they may be able to do in relatively short order. And that's a concern with all of this. And that was the concern that so many of us had, that the president was resorting to force before diplomacy had run its course. What we have now is not a permanent and verifiable solution to the Iranian nuclear challenge. It's not verifiable in the sense that because it was done at the barrel of a gun and not with diplomacy, we don't have international weapons inspectors on the ground. Iran may withdraw itself from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And it's not permanent in the sense that Iran, as the congressman alluded to, and as I said, may well be incentivized to try to sprint towards whatever they can muster. And even if it's not what they would have mustered 6 months ago, a year ago, it could still be something that Israel, the United States, would not want to see. And that's precisely why there does have to be a diplomatic agreement with Iran going forward. There can't just be an empty meeting, despite what we heard from the president this morning.
So, Peter, what is a clearer win for Trump is NATO allies today agreeing to increase their defense spending, right, from around about 2% to 5%, giving him something he has wanted for a very long time. And the Secretary General actually referred to him in this way when talking about Iran and Israel.
They've had a big fight, like two kids in a schoolyard. You know, they fight like hell. You can't stop them. Let them fight for about 2-3 minutes. Then it's easy to stop them.
And then Daddy has to sometimes use strong language.
You have to use strong language. Every once in a while, you have to use a certain word.
Daddy uses strong language, whether it's that, Peter, or handing over the cash. Can Trump leave this meeting legitimately arguing, I have NATO where I want them?
Well, he is going to argue that, no question about it. He will take credit for the goal of a 5% spending on military. But keep in mind that it's a little less than that underneath the surface. For one thing, the language of the agreement suggests that allies, not necessarily all allies, will meet that 5% goal. That's already been interpreted by Spain, for instance, to say, well, I'm not going to do this. We're not going to go to 5%. And secondly, that goal is for 2035, not next year, 2035, long after Trump presumably will be not in office. So I don't think a lot of these allies are necessarily all that concerned about making it to 5% anytime soon. It's also worth remembering the United States isn't at 5%. But, look, it's a much friendlier summit for the president than he has had in the past with NATO. They are, in fact, all trying to make nice for the most part, with the exception of Spain's objection to this. They are, in fact, praising him for the Iran strike. And he is, in fact, recommitted to Article 5, which says that the United States will, consider an attack against any member to be an attack on itself as well, something even just earlier this week he threw into doubt. Remember, this is just a year ago, the president said he would say to Russia, do whatever the hell you want. That's his phrase with any NATO ally that didn't spend as much as he thought they ought to spend on their defense. So his undermining of the commitment of Article 5 has been a consistent theme of his going back years. For today, at least, he's saying he's committed to it. And that's enough, I think, to get people through the summit and without the kind of blow up they were afraid of.
Yeah, I think that absolutely, as always, Peter is right, Colonel, that he's gone back and forth from it depends on your definition to earlier today he says he stands with it. But I want to play something longer that he said about Article 5.
As far as Article 5, look, when I came here because it was something I'm supposed to be doing, but I left here a little bit differently. I said, I watched the heads of these countries get up, and the love and the passion that they showed for their country was unbelievable. I've never seen quite anything like it. They want to protect their country, and they need the United States. And without the United States, it's not going to be the same.
So if you're talking about an armed attack against one member of NATO is an attack against all, and how the U.S. will respond to it, do you think that there is clarity for other NATO allies?
No, because he's so inconsistent. I don't think, and most people don't think, that our allies, and even non-aligned countries who are concerned about national security affairs, and not just in Europe, either in the Western Pacific as well, think that they can rely on an American government led by Donald Trump because he changes his mind publicly all the time. If you say that you're an isolationist one week, and then shortly thereafter say you're committed to Article 5, that plants in people who are more clearly articulative of what their nation's objectives, national strategic objectives are. It doesn't convince them. And which is why countries like Japan were talking about rearming, developing nuclear weapons. Why countries we are aligned with want to have nuclear weapons, because they're concerned about the American commitment to come to their defense in the event that they're attacked by anybody, not just Russia. You've got to be consistent. Consistency and predictability is what makes for peace. And when you're inconsistent, it invariably turns to conflict and violence.